My name is Anil Waithe. I was born blind, and this is a look through my eye. This umbrella here, the keys in it damaged, so it not producing the dots. So I think I know what's the problem. The problem is there is a 6 link pins that attaches to the keys, right? So what happened? The person apply more pressure on this umbrella than a water pipe, so they break the keys.
We all have dreams and aspirations. For many of us, education gives us the extra footing to one day achieve those goals. But for others, like Anil, having an education may not guarantee integration into society in the same way it does for others.
My experience was going to school. I think it was more negative than positive. I never took it in a negative way. If I took it in a negative way, I would have dropped out of school for bullying and so forth. I said, no, I just laughed it out. I said, no, I couldn't let those little things get me down. I would actually utilize the detention system to get notes. So in that way, I would be learning and the child would be learning, because the brain learns through repetition, right? So if you could read for me, then you tend to learn. Well, I had a tape recorder. So things that I couldn't take down in Braille, I would have it recorded. So I took a tape recorder. Now there was challenges with that, right? Some teacher would say they don't want to be recorded. So when that happens, I have to find other ways to get people to call notes for my lunchtime. I used to carry a lot of snacks, so I would pay people incentives to call notes for me. Sight is the main sense that teachers would use for education, because 95% teachers would go on the board, and the amount of board I had to experience, I should have been opening a lumber yard, because everything is on the board, and that is the problem. And that way a teacher would find to be a burden and say that you are extra work. And so again, that's why I had to develop situations where I would get notes from the students rather than depend on the teacher. Now, I'm not saying that all teachers were like that, right? There are teachers who will go the extra mile. But I believe the mantra of a teacher should be we should go up and beyond the call of duty to assist students. Because at the end of the day, the education system is one objective. You graduate, you go CXC, you go common entrance or C or whatever. Everybody get that same education. Where you have lecturers not willing to go the extra mile, I had to pay for private tutoring, and you have to show that you could rise above the negativity. You would tend to learn, you tend to get a greater understanding of society and what needs to be fixed. When you're seeing all the negativity coming down and things, if you give up, that means that the negativity has won. I was still able to achieve 2 degrees at UE despite the negative. I'm thinking about going for PhD. I'm looking more at an online university though. What most persons with disability tends to do is look at a negative outcome to fix a negative problem. So you tend to say, okay, the world owes me. Look what the world do to me. And I tend to self-pity and go into a psychological depression and all of that. Now, I'm not saying that society is not the main cause of that, but you have to understand we are in a third world country because we have a third world mentality, and that cannot change just in, like, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So it can't change, but you have to keep pursuing to change it. I could be hope to the hopeless in that, not me per se, but the projects that I am involved in and I am creating, I can actually help to make some improvement to the lives of persons with disability.
Not for lack of trying, Anil, like many other qualified persons here in Trinidad and Tobago, has never been able to attain a full-time job. But being blind or visually impaired does not mean that you cannot work. Most people who live with visual impairments or blindness can be integrated into the workplace once systems are put into place to facilitate their transition.
The world is moving into something called diversity, even in workplace. If my computer does not have screen reader, I don't have access to the computer. Is the computer the problem, or I am the problem? The problem is the computer. So once we put on text-to-speech screen reader on that computer, someone who is blind could use it. So the world is moving towards a diverse place. The school must be diverse. The community, instead of putting all persons who are blind to live in one place. No, that shouldn't be. Let us put persons who are blind to live in all the communities in Trinidad and Tobago. So we develop a diverse society, and there's unity in diversity. The key thing is you or the person who is sighted changing their perception to persons with disabilities. If you check years ago, you check people in the States, or even colored people, always have to work harder for the same job. Similarly, persons with disability, why we must have to be working harder for the same job? Why we all have to be proving ourselves? That shouldn't be. It shouldn't be about proving ourselves. If you are good at the job, you get the opportunity to do the job. And it always goes back not to the person who is blind. It's always to the person who is sighted, changing their perception, changing their expectation, changing how they see things, and working on your own fears. And once you overcome your own fears, the society is going to be different. We're going to start to see the world different. We're going to start judging people on their ability and not on their disability. It's an excellent opportunity for employers to employ someone who is blind. The benefit of that alone, just your staff will be now move away from sympathizing with the person who is disabled or blind, but start empathizing. They will start to learn how to, the do's and don'ts. Simple thing like in the workplace, you might start putting up braille signs. You might start putting up QR codes. Like for instance, on my phone, if I put up QR codes, my phone could pick it up and know where the washroom is, different offices are. So we start to make the building accessible for persons who are blind. So then the workplace become a place where we start thinking about other persons and not ourselves. You could find persons with disability in so many different spheres of life. And it's just to give them that opportunity and create the opportunity in your workplace to employ someone who is blind. We don't like to limit to ideal. We might have popular jobs like, say, radio announcers, musicians. So those are the jobs you will find persons who are blind into sound editing and so on. Because of technology, it makes it easy for someone who's blind to even edit a video. So persons with disabilities, they are contributing, and we must not limit them.
Because you see, what usually happens is that normally if you go in for a job, they would tend to overlook your qualifications and put your disability on the front line. So from a business perspective, we would start to look at, okay, this person is blind, so how would I interact with the person? There would more be a burden to employ this person at my establishment. How would the person move around? And you would get those type of things. And then there's a universal consensus that people tends to, once you are blind, it tends to see you as two things. Either you are helpless in society, or you should go and get charity. At the end of the day, it's intellectual skills you are dealing with, right? And I don't think you should put physical disability as a judgment, because at the end of the day, I have a degree. I might have a degree just as sighted, that a sighted person would have. I would also have experiences. But normally, the society would tend to look at your disability over your ability. But I am in computer repairs. I could actually repair a computer. I actually do braille repairs. I can repair a brailler. I do online classes, so I can also teach. So I can do the same thing that a sighted person would be able to do. totally blind, so I never had the understanding of what sight is. However, I may have the understanding of what a vision is, because not because you can't see, you wouldn't have a vision.
Being born blind, Anil has had to become very innovative. Like many of us, he has had his own trials and obstacles, but he has used those experiences as stepping stones that help him come up with new ideas to shatter the boulders that stand in his way.
I studied IT because I had a passion for IT. Also, the experts told me that I couldn't do anything to do with science. I believe through technology, you could make an evolutionary change. The education system isn't accommodating to visually impaired persons. So you have to find ways to accommodate yourself. Having entered a school that has only sighted students, I was able to identify problems, and when you identify problems, then you could be able to work to solve those problems. So right now, although I am not employed, I volunteer services to improve the conditions that future visually impaired persons would not have to face if they decide to pursue our education. I believe that I should work to assist other students to have an equal form of education. Because at the end of the day, education, as they say, should keep you out of poverty. So I basically have a system that I use voice over IP, and you use virtualization, where you would create a virtual machine on your computer, and the students would connect to my computer, and I would be able to teach them in an accessible form. Let's say you're doing stats and a teacher presents you with that information in a table form. It's difficult for a blind person to follow follow that structure of information. So you have to now find ways to convert these information into an accessible form then. So I have that. It would take any information and try to convert that into a readable form. So you could have text to speech. You could have a table converted into a list form. You know, there are many techniques that you could use to get the information in a form that is understandable by blind students. And there was a long-standing issue with the diagrams. So if you have to do science or graphs or maths, you would be unable to do that. So I took that task of providing that. So I basically have a Braille printer now that I use to convert the books into Braille. I also do Braille and print, where you have Braille and print on one page. This would allow parents now to communicate with their child. I am developing a course called Cooking with Technology, where you would use equipment that would assist you in cooking. So you have scales and the scale is computerized, so it talks to you. It allows you to weigh and get audible feedback. So if something is 12 ounce, and essentially cooking is science. It's all about weight, measurements, how long you cook something. Normally, if you go to any cooking course, they would tell you, just cook the chicken until it gets golden brown, right? But as a blind person, you don't know colors, so you don't know what golden brown is, or you can't see the food. And that is I don't believe that is a proper safe way to cooking, because sometimes you would end up in a situation where something may be golden brown, but the inside isn't cooked. So that's where accuracy comes in, through temperature. I'm working on creating forms that pertain to the government, because we have social welfare forms like the disability grant form, the senior citizen form. I'm working on making that accessible too. I actually have a Windows software that visually impaired can use to install Windows on their computer without requiring sighted help. I also have a Facebook app. People could communicate in Facebook with their sighted peers. And I also have WhatsApp, because you know the popularity of WhatsApp is increasing. So now blind persons could use WhatsApp on their computer without requiring a touchscreen phone. Well, the goal is to help blind person to be more independent. I could do two things. Either I complain or do something about it.
So many persons with visual impairments or different disabilities have the education, have the skill set, but the obstacles of being employed, not being able to, use their education or put their education to use. I think until the government steps in and implements some of these laws that have been put in place but not proclaimed or not in action, I think we are going to be fighting an uphill battle. It's unfortunate that they are going to be working twice, 3 times as hard as some of us to show their skill set, which they have earned, which does not affect their ability to complete the job or the task. And so as society, as individuals, we need to look past what we see, and we need to look at their abilities versus their disabilities. Employers need to make their businesses accessible. So one would be, physical infrastructure, but you also have to have, whether it's, say, computer software for speech-to-text recognition, or maybe a certain type of lighting, or support systems in place. And I think, I'm not sure if we're quite there yet. Well, we're not there yet in Trinidad and Tobago, but that's where we need to be, because we are losing out on the skill set of a group of persons who can contribute to society, can make a difference, can earn a living, not being employed, and eventually having to rely on social assistance from the government, where they could be, very well be earning a living, providing for their family, just like any other citizen in Trinidad and Tobago.
I don't think there are much opportunities here in Trinidad. You may get it foreign simply because of the different mindset. Society tends to see you as helpless, and we need to do something to help you rather than you could do something to help yourself. The challenges we face here is the perception of society, and that's why the point to take away here is that your disability doesn't limit you, It's the perception of society that limits you, not your disability. I think I always had a high self-esteem, so that's what allowed me to push forward. I developed a more tolerant to negativity, so I could say that I probably have more emotional endurance, and I could actually handle negative situations in a better way. I have developed a skill to provide solutions more than problems.
Building bonds between persons is never an easy thing, more so when others perceive the differences to be insurmountable. But it is only through cultivating empathy to understand others that we as a society can evolve.
When someone wants to create a friendship with someone who is differently abled, the most important thing is not to make them feel less than, make them feel that they cannot accomplish what others can, and to have respect. Many persons who are visually impaired can pick up cues. They may not be able to pick up the visual cues, but they can pick up the cues if someone is their friend out of sympathy by the conversations that they have. Able persons can make people with impairments feel more visible in society by breaking down the barriers to inclusion. Inclusion is a big thing. We have, even in our education system, 2001, No Child Left Behind Act, which says that all societies should move towards inclusion, towards respecting the rights of persons with disabilities. So removing the barriers to inclusion, to career advancement for persons with disabilities, I think would make them feel more visible. As a nation, we have to lead kinder lives towards persons with disabilities. In our nation, there should be an increased acceptance of diversity, where every person, able or disabled, find an equal place. Awareness of disability and education, therefore, is empowering. It's an empowerment. Persons' perceptions in this society are shaped about the blind due to their lack of knowledge. Blind persons in our society are part of the human resources in our society. They must be invested in, and therefore they must be provided for. So there's a need to look at their potential and their possibilities rather than focusing on their disability.
Making friends was somewhat, I would say, I had to find a common ground on communicating. I usually think, how could I turn a negative situation into a positive situation? Or because there are situations where people will tend to not communicate with you, not because of your disability, but because they are shy or they don't know how to communicate. Because look, this person blind, eye-sighted, how do I communicate? So sometimes you have to be the one to reach out first, and when they see you, when they feel comfortable, you need to find a common societal ground that you could interact with. So for example, cards, playing. I actually took a deck of cards, add braille to it, and I used to engage in card play. It was more exercise to actually bring awareness. So what you have to do is try and get rid of the social barrier or the discomfort that people will tend to have towards you. And eventually it will become normal.
So, what other measures can we as a society put into place to create a world where it is easier for persons with visual impairments to function?
Once someone who is blind realizes, look, I could achieve this and I could achieve more and more and more. So all we ask in Trinidad and Tobago, the education system must be ready for the person who is blind, to accommodate that person who is blind. The workplace, the transportation system, the housing system, even like for instance the street furnitures. We need a standardized thing where we put fire hydrant, where we put lampposts, where we put trees. Everything must be standardized.
I'm currently working on an app, a mobility app, where blind persons would be able to move it in collaboration with their cane. We're using binaural audio, where you could actually hear the field of audio in relation to your movement. So for example, if you are walking and a store is on your right, you would hear the beep on your right. If you need to walk straight, you would hear the audio on both ears. And I think that it's a challenging project, but I think I could be able to develop that.
Anil has been able to create his own space in the world through sheer determination and unwavering self-belief. He sees his work as a step towards creating a more integrated society where people with visual impairments and blindness can live and work independently.
My accomplishment, I believe it has a positive effect on me. I feel very proud of the accomplishment that I have completed and are in the process of completing. So why I feel positive about it, because I believe that it could bring hope to a hopeless situation, and that is the main point. It's not about me and what I could do for me, but it's what I could do for other people in the community. And there are also people outside of Trinidad and Tobago who may need resources. I'm trying to do this thing in not a temporary way, but in a permanent way. And I will always be coming up with projects. I will always be doing that based on situation that I encounter. I'm looking to acquire something called a skill bank. And that skill bank would allow, well, I am hoping that I could get persons who could join those skill banks that would be able to teach or to contribute in the education field or in any other social independence projects that would help to improve the lives of blind or visually impaired person here. You could help somebody conditionally and you could help them unconditionally. When you have an unconditional mindset to help, it tends to help them in a better way because you're helping them to improve and you are not helping them just for publicity or to make a point. By having these projects that I have, I think it would help again to change the mindset of society.
If you would like to get in contact with Anil, find him on Facebook at Anil Waithe or email him at timeismoney2020@hotmail.com.